communication or communion with darkness, as the picture depicts, it's all about having that mixture which is not appropriate when it comes to the kingdom of the Lord. You'll find that on this issue, this subject is about religion per se. Okay, those who call themselves the children of God having that form, and then they're going out into some other things that is not right. So we'll look at some examples here. Let's go to the first slide, and we'll look at that text.
2 Corinthians 6:14. Be ye not unequally yoked together with unbelievers. For what fellowship hath righteousness with unrighteousness? And what communion hath light with darkness?
So it's asking a very important question. And I think that you all understand that. And it seems easy on paper. You read it in the book, it's not a problem. But when it comes to the action of what you read, that's where the trouble comes. That's where the difficulty comes in. I want us to turn to the book of Jeremiah. It's not going to be up on the screen. And just a couple of texts we're going to look at. But Jeremiah 43, we're going to read from verses 13. Now, many of us have, or all of us I should say, are accustomed to going to different places of worship, visiting with either family members or ourselves going. And as you go, you see certain structures that distinguishes itself from other structures. In other words, you know what a church looked like versus the way it's designed versus, let's say, a federal building or something like that. Okay, it's a different structure. People design structures for various reasons. All right, a ship is made to travel through the sea. A plane was designed specifically to travel through the air and such like. And buildings of worship are designed for a spiritual content. Okay. Jeremiah 43 and verses 13.
He shall break also the images of Beth-Shemesh, that is in the land of Egypt, and the houses of the gods of the Egyptians shall he burn with fire.
So, some instructions was given that you should break also the images of Beth-Shemesh, which is the house of the sun, that are in the land of Egypt, and the houses of the gods of the Egyptians shall he burn with fire. So there's a pulling down of something satanic, demonic, that has to be removed. With that said, let's go to Wisdom of Solomon 14. Got two verses to read, 12 and 13. Wisdom 14, 12 and 13.
For the devising of idols was the beginning of spiritual fornication, and the invention of them the corruption of life. For neither were they from the beginning, neither shall they be forever.
So the devising of idols, that's where the spiritual fornication that got us kicked out from the garden, that's where everything started. It begins that breakdown process. Now, what did he say to Eve? Do y'all remember?
You shall not surely die.
No, before that, what got her?
God say?
You will be as what?
Gods.
Gods. Didn't the Lord say, did the Most High say, that you should not have any other gods? Yet, and I'm not going to pull a scripture right now, but in the book of Psalms it says that to the men, he says, you men are gods. Referring to the men as power. The word God means Elohim in Hebrew, or powers. Okay? Adam was a power. But she wanted to be, he told her, you are going to be a power. Okay? That's idolatry. That's trying to take over a position that does not belong to you. Alright? That was the beginning of disorder. Her role was a supporting role to her husband, not a rulership role. Adam was to be the one head in charge. And his head was the Messiah and so forth. Okay? So there's an order that was structured. And when the devil, Hashatan, introduced this concept, it threw everything out of order and therefore began the process of where we have things today. Spiritual fornication, okay? And the corruption of life. Let's go to, jump down to verse 16 and read that for me, please.
Thus, in process of time, an ungodly custom grown strong was kept as a law, and graven images were worshipped by the commandments of kings.
So in the process of time, things that start off wrong, disobedience, has now become popular, that now it's accepted in society. In other words, when you look at the screen, you'll see a lot of rebellion that started in the beginning has now been transformed into something that is acceptable by society. So when you go around to different places, it doesn't bother you. Because right now we're in the middle of transitioning from proper marriage or male and female marriage into homosexual lifestyle. We're seeing this all around us. And all it takes is just a couple of generations to be removed, and now it doesn't bother people anymore. And that's where we are, all right? So it says, in the process of time, an ungodly custom, ungodly against God, grown strong was kept as a law. So you have people instituting the rights to do sin and making that acceptable. Now people are going along with it, okay? Let's take one more text. I'm going to show you all some interesting things. Leviticus, Vayikra 26 and 1. Leviticus 26 and 1.
You shall make you no idols nor graven image, neither rear you up a standing image, neither shall you set up any image of stone in your land, to bow down unto it, for I am the Lord your God.
All right, so it says in the reading, don't make any idols, no graven image. And the key word that I want to look at here, neither rear you up a standing what?
Image.
Standing image. This book is called Ancient Egypt. Okay, and in here it has different all of the histories, Egyptian histories. Y'all can see this, okay? So in this book, and you'll see it on the screen too, okay? There's a standing image right here. You see that standing image? That's a standing image. It's called an obelisk or obelisk. Okay? An obelisk. Each of these are depicted, and you'll see what it says, depicted as Egyptian gods and powers and so forth. Okay? Now, we'll stop here with the scriptures. I'll come back to this text again. But on the screen here is the roster for the United Nations of the NGOs, the non-governmental organizations that work with the United Nations. Okay? Remember what was the headline of this class? Fellowship with
Darkness.
Communion with darkness, right? So off the top of your head, should a church, so-called church, those that are supposed to be set apart to do the Lord's business, should they find themselves mixed up with the powers of the world, the governments of the world, yes or no?
No.
All right, so what we're going to look at here is some examples of the problem of this communion with darkness. So it says United Nations Economic and Social Council. And as you can see, it says Baptist World Alliance. That's the first on the list. Now, what I did was I picked out the names because it's a long roster. So I'm just highlighting a few things here that you can see. You got the Baptists involved in that. You got the Catholic involved with those people. But look who's after that. International Gay and Lesbian Human Rights Commission. Okay? And then it says Swedish Federation for Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, and Transgender Rights. Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society. These are all the non-profit organizations or non-governmental organizations that associate themselves with these nations, okay, to do different works. Commission of the Churches on International Affairs of the World Council of Churches, Federation of Kohoja, Shailathan Ashri Muslim Communities, World Federation of Methodists and United Church Women, World Alliance of Reformed Churches. Let's go to the next slide. So I'm giving you a little flavor. Now go back for 1 second. The one that says International Gay and Lesbian Human Rights Commission, you see that they're below the Baptist organization. All of these organizations are working under one umbrella of the world system. And the scripture says that we should not have any fellowship with darkness. Over here, this is their website. And on their website, these are the list of companies that sponsor the Lesbian Gay Human Rights Organization. You have Levi Jeans, Levi Strauss, IBM, and a whole list of other companies that put their monies to finance these homosexual, these sodomite agenda throughout the world. So you have church organizations working along with these other organizations that have different interests. Okay? Now, we know that this is a problem by itself. Okay? Basically, when we go out and we spend our money on Levi jeans, part of the money that you spent for those jeans are going to support these types of businesses, organizations that are there to destroy or against the Word of God. That's why we always have to have the knowledge to know where we put our money. Let's go to the next slide.
Amen.
The Hebrew organization that you saw, Hebrew immigrants. Now it says Hebrew, but let's see what they support, okay? It's an NGO, it's a Hebrew organization, and they provide a haven to LGBTI refugees. Lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, I don't know what the I stand for. Okay? But all these different sins are Hebrew, supposedly Hebrew organization that should be keeping the Torah is supporting this kind of a lifestyle. Okay? Alright, so this is just giving you a flavor. Let's go to the next slide of what we are talking about here. Now look at this. Under the same list, guess who's involved? Do y'all see it on the screen? The General Conference of Seventh-day Adventists are also on the roster, along with all of those other organizations working under the United Nations. Now you think that these people who talk about prophecy so much, why would they find themselves in this type of organization? I give you two examples of the agenda. Okay, the sodomite agenda that's mixed in there. What fellowship does darkness have with light? None. But you can see they are listed on the roster. Okay? So let's go to the next slide.
Ancient obelisks. The obelisk symbolized the sun god Ra, and during the brief religious reformation of Akhenaten, was said to be a petrified ray of Aten, the sun disk. It was also thought that the god existed within the structure.
It says what? Read that last part again.
Wow.
That the God is what?
It was also thought that the god existed within the structure.
So the people who erected these things here, let's go back to Leviticus 26 and read that again. Because when the Most High gave us instructions, He knows the hearts and the minds of men. The intentions of the hearts of men. Why they put certain things up. Alright, these objects are not just regular objects. These objects are devices to harbor spirits. Now I have some information that I'm going to dig up from my vault. And this information comes from another organization that's within the United Nations. They act as a spiritual guide within the UN. And in there was a report that was written about this guy who's an architect. This architect designed a lot of banks and buildings in Switzerland and first world countries in Europe and whatnot. And they asked him in an interview a question. They said to him, "We have noticed that your buildings all have left, like your right and left angles. And they want to know, why does your building are designed with such angles?" He says, because the word angle actually came from the word what?
Angel.
Angels. So when I design it this way, it is to harbor, he says, and I'll get the book, the information, to harbor certain energies.
So we'll call that new word feng shui.
Energies. So when you walk into a room, you know, sometimes you feel like you're here on your back, like they say. You just feel queasy about this place, like something don't feel right. And you just stay away from it. Because you don't know why this is happening to you, but the people who design these structures, they know what it's all about. They have a certain goal. You understand that? So, if righteousness or right ruling is with God, an angle means angels, you would say that the right angles is dealing with righteousness, right? What's the opposite of right? Left. And what is the opposite of right angels? Fallen angels, you see? So when he designed the building, it's there to attract. Why do they have haunted houses and all these different things? We'll get into that with our teaching on Halloween. I'll do one of those in a couple of weeks, okay? So read 26 and 1 for me, please.
You shall make you no idols, nor graven image, neither rear you up a standing image, neither shall ye set up any image of stone in your land, to bow down unto it, for I am the Lord your God.
Now read the last part of that on the screen.
It was also thought that the God existed within the structure.
So when you raise these things up, they look at this as a God. Do you understand that? Now let's go to the next slide. And now that symbol that you saw there is, go back a second. What you look at here, the Egyptians also look at this as reincarnation power, because this is a symbol of the male penis. Okay? By the cultures. Alright? So let's go to the next slide. Read that for me too.
Ancient obelisks. The ancient Romans were strongly influenced by the obelisk form, to the extent that there are now more than twice as many obelisks standing in Rome.
Alright, stop for a second. So you have an Egyptian God worship system, okay? But then you see a transition now to Rome. We'll see why that is. And I'll tell you off the top, because Rome is the mother of this whole system that we exist in right now. So they took the system from Egypt, and now they have more of the same Egyptian, the ones that was made in Egypt, is now found all over Rome. So go ahead and read the rest.
There are now more than twice as many obelisks standing in Rome as remain in Egypt. All fell after the Roman period, except for the Vatican obelisk.
Except for where?
The Vatican obelisk.
The one in the Vatican. Now, isn't the Vatican supposed to be where the righteous supposed to dwell, the priests, according to their teaching and understanding? You understand that? So what is an obelisk doing in the Vatican? Continue reading.
And are erected in different locations.
Okay. Let's go to the next slide. So this is the Vatican. And there you can see, all right, the same Egyptian penis, you would call it that, God that they worship, which they believe God's reside in that. Not the God of Israel, because God already said to us in Leviticus 26 and 1, not to do those things, not to erect anything. Right? And then on top of that, what do you find? A cross. Alright? So you know all this is wrong.
Confusion.
Now, by looking at this picture, what does this remind you? Does this remind you of some place you've seen right here in America?
Yes.
All of the government buildings, the Capitol buildings in America, all are structured
Have the same.
patterned after their mama, which is the Vatican. Okay? Whatever mama does, they do the same thing too.
Children do.
And it's all Latin on the front of the building. Can you see that? That's why when you go to these, you go downtown of any state, you will see this Latin in the front. The structures are pretty much the same way because they are no different. They're an offshoot of Rome. Yes, we speak English, but you find this all over the world. Let's go to the next slide.
Re-erecting the obelisk had daunted even Michelangelo, but Sixtus V,
Sixtus the Fifth.
Sixtus V,
Now that's a pope, Pope Sixtus. Okay.
was determined to erect it in front of St. Peter's.
Okay, so you wanted to have that thing erected there. All right. Continue.
Domenico Fontana, the assistant of Giacomo della Porta in the Basilia construction, presented the Pope with a little model crane of wood and a heavy little obelisk of lead.
Go ahead.
The re-erection scheduled for September 14th, the Feast of Exaltation of the Cross, was watched by a large crowd.
Now, if you notice carefully,
Feast.
the day that they chose to erect this, this obelisk
It's fall
in
time.
Rome was a feast that they already have set up specifically to adore the cross. You see, and it had a large crowd, so people was already gathering to celebrate the worshiping of a cross, another symbol of that it was erected that the Most High says we should not have. You understand that? Let's go to the next slide. So here goes the Pope. That's the Pope John II, the one before. And then you can see a large crowd of people in the square, and you can see the obelisk right in the center. Okay? Let's go to the next slide. This is a square. This is where the people gather. And it's very interesting how this is designed like that, going all the way down. This penis, this canal here, is symbolic of the woman's body. The womb. Going down, and you can see the water is down there. You see? The water is at the end, like the womb. So all these things are symbolic, but look at the way this is structured. Look at the way it's structured. There's a country that speaks a language that we all speak today, whose flag has something called a Union Jack. Do you know what country that is?
England.
A country that speaks English. England, the United Kingdom.
That flag.
Their flag has the same Union Jack on it.
Okay.
Because it all comes from the same mama.
Britain.
Because when Rome had control of England, it was called Britannia. Britannia is the Roman form of, the English form today is called Great Britain. Okay, but back then it was called Britannia. It was a Roman province. Okay, so let's move on, next slide. There it is closer. All right, you can see the obelisk right in the middle. This is an actual Egyptian one. Brought in from Egypt and erected here in the square. All right, so you can see all these statues. The Lord says don't make any graven image, but I got them all around. And then you have this thing right here. Sun. You see the sun verse, the rays of the sun? All sun worship. There it is again. These are where the idols were. This is the opening. See, that's closed. This is facing that way, and this is the canal that goes down goes to the water. All right, but this is the top view of that. You see, everything is designed for a reason. All right, let's move on. Next slide. This is a postage stamp. So you can see, even on the stamps, they have the same obelisk, and then you can see the cross right at the top of that, in the pinnacle. All right, let's move on. Next slide. All right, read that for me, please.
The tallest Egyptian obelisk is in the square in front of the Lateran Basilia in Rome at 105.6 feet and a weight of 455 tons.
All right, now take a look at this. There's one, the tallest obelisk is in a square where one of the churches are in Rome. Very important part of the Vatican. And there's an inscription on the bottom here. Now you can see all these Egyptian hieroglyphics all around it. Okay? And on top of it you can see over here these images and a cross. And over here is Latin. We're going to go to a close-up to see. You want to know what this, why would the Vatican want to have an obelisk there? All right? It shouldn't be at all. Let's go to the next slide. This is what's in the bottom over here. It's dedicated, citation to who?
Emperor
Constantine. The head who started the unification of the bishops together to form the Catholic Church. The one world, yeah, exactly, one world system at that time, which now has been transferred to the rest of the world. All right, let's go to the next slide. So you can see Constantine, and right above it, all these symbols, Egyptian hieroglyphs, all over it. Now, Herod himself, back in the day, wanted to show himself, and he was an Edomite, tribe of Esau, but he was put there by Rome, and he wanted to show himself off as if he's a little god himself. Okay? Read that for me, please.
Not all the Egyptian obelisks in the Roman Empire were set up at Rome. Herod the Great imitated his Roman patrons and set up a red granite Egyptian obelisk in the hippodrome of his new city, Caesarea, in northern Judea. This one is about 40 feet tall and weighs about 100 tons. It was discovered by archaeologists and has been re-erected at its former site. Okay, so we can see that they brought this foolishness into the land of Judea, of Israel. See? And guess what? It's still there today. Now you think if those people in the land right now were real Israelites, real Jews, what would be the first thing they would have done? They would have broken all this stuff down and tear it out of there. But you'd be surprised, there's many more of those things over there. Let's go to the next slide. Read that for me, please. Catholic founding fathers, the Carroll family.
Okay, hang on a second. Now what this is, you know this country called America has certain people to call founding fathers, right? But behind the scenes there were other people who helped establish this country that you don't really hear too much about. These are the people that you need to really keep an eye on. Okay? It so happened that, as I showed you, the Vatican bringing in this Egyptian power, being that they transferred their ideologies to the rest of the world, which we'll see. Here now, the same system is coming to America by way of the Vatican's disciples, called Jesuits and priests and so forth. So go ahead and read that for me, please.
George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, James Madison, Patrick Henry, Benjamin Franklin, nearly every school child recognizes them as the founding fathers, signers of the Declaration of Independence, framers of the Constitution, heroes of the Revolutionary War. There were a great many more founding fathers. However, even if their names are not so familiar as the above, several of those lesser-known men who played key roles in the creation of the United States of America were Catholics.
There were what now?
Were Catholics.
Catholics. So when they talk about church not being tied up with state, they're lying to us. Because we can see clearly that America, the creation, the key roles, there were Catholics involved, okay, to get their system in play. Let's go to the next slide. Now let's take a look at this individual. Remember the headline, the topic says what? No communion with who?
Darkness.
Darkness. Who all know this lady?
Famous Ellen G. White.
Ellen G. the White.
Ellen White.
Okay? And you can see that this is copywritten by the Ellen G. White estate. She has an estate where all her documents are preserved at a museum. Okay? All right, let's go to the next slide. This is her gravesite. Take a look and see.
Wow. Wow.
What is a Seventh-day Adventist who's supposed to be a prophetess? A prophet should know the words of God. When God says not to do, they should be the ones to stand up for the Most High and say, we're not doing this. Why is it that her gravesite, and this is her husband, this is her family's gravesite, but this is her husband, James White, and you'll see hers too. Why is her husband's gravesite, why does it have an Egyptian obelisk on top of it? As you can see.
They're all mixed.
Y'all see that? So the Seventh-day Adventists, they know about this stuff, and you'll see this in the report. They know all this stuff, but they wouldn't, see, they would cover all that up, because they want to keep that money coming in. Go to the next slide. This is another view of the gravesite, and you can see that it's not something fake, it's an obelisk. And you can see Ellen G. White Estate.
It's in a square like that.
In a square. It's Masonic. Alright? It's Masonic. Let's go to the next slide. These are the people gathered around to honor at the gravesite. See, it's an Egyptian obelisk, just like the one that we saw in the Vatican. You see that? Alright, let's go to the next one. There's Ellen G. White. Oh, Ellen G. White. That's her name on there, and that's hers. So, the people that put these things together know exactly what they're dealing with. They have a certain connection with darkness. Let's go on to the next slide. Ellen G. White, James White. So you know that we're not showing you foolishness. Now, if you look in the left corner, you can see it says White, and you can see that's Ellen G. White's marker for the graves. Okay? Next slide. Now this here, can you see it, Adam? Alright, I'll read it. Ellen G. White Estate letter. This is a letter that was asking a question. Obelisk on Ellen G. White's grave, September 15, 2008. Dear brother, thank you for contacting the Ellen G. White Estate. There is indeed an obelisk on the family plot. You see what it says? There is indeed an obelisk on the family plot where Miss White and her husband are buried, though it is not the tombstone for either of them, but rather serves as a family marker in the center of the plot. Some people have expressed surprise and concern to find an obelisk on the White family plot because of the obelisk connection to what? Pagan worship in Egypt and to other questionable associations. Evidently, however, many people in the 19th century didn't think this was a problem. Adventists of that era seems to be among them. So they're giving you an excuse. They first of all acknowledge that that's connected with pagan worship, demonic stuff. But then they counter it with some softening by saying, well, you know, the people were ignorant back then. No. They were not ignorant of what they were doing. Let's jump down to the last part of the page. So why the obelisk? Evidently, she did not regard it as inherently a Masonic or pagan symbol. So that means that she knew about it. Regardless of the fact, whether known to her or not, that Masons and what? Sun worshippers had what? Used it. So when we look at that, we know it's connected to sun worship. She was involved in it. So when you see we talk about come out of her, my people, it is exactly that. But you will attend these places of worship and you'll be so ignorant that you are in a place that's demonic. That's why we don't practice Christianity and we are not part of any Christian church. We are out from that foolishness because we are Israel. And that's the bottom line. Symbols mean what people take them to mean. So you that are stupid and ignorant are going to look at it as nothing. But the people who spend their money to put that there, they could have chosen anything. They could have put a rock, just any old rock there. But they got one designed specifically at ancient symbols for a reason. Because they know exactly what they're doing. Alright? Because Masons keep their things secret from the rest of the public. All right. The cross itself was once an abhorrent symbol of Roman oppression and cruelty. You hear what it says? The cross. So we shouldn't even be using no crosses, because it's a symbol of what? Roman oppression against who? Our people. So when our people take up these demonic symbols, we are in cahoots with them. But today, Christians around the world hold it as a symbol of what? Our redemption through Christ. Hogwash. Yeah. Symbols may change their meaning. Let's go to the next slide. This is a book for kids that they put out. You can, it's an internet, what do you call it again? An e-book. It says Ellen White Visionary, 4th quarter, 2012, last year, for children. See, they call them kids. There's war going on. Then you got a picture of the devil, supposed to be a little more darker tone complexion. And then you got the Caesar Borgia, the white Jesus, in a pink complexion. And then all people, the Israelites, are caught between the two. Right? So they put this thing on. Ellen White's book, The Great Controversy, gives us the inside scoop about the Great War. Well, tell me what's wrong with that picture.
There's an eye.
There's a what?
Eyeball.
There's an eye, and what's around the eye?
Sun ray.
The sunbeam. Remember the same sun cross that was around that sun, that penis symbol in the Vatican? Do you see that? Let's go to the next slide. Now, the top part is part of the magazine you just saw. The bottom part is from the dollar bill. But you can see the connection. You see the eye, and you see an American dollar bill. There is a Latin, which is what language? The language of the Roman Empire, on the bottom. I know it's Coeptus. Novus Ordo Circum. The New World Order, right on the bottom. And then you see this Egyptian pyramid of slavery and bondage, but then there's an eye, all-seeing eye, right to the top, with the same glow around it, just like Ellen G. White's books.
It means announcing the conception.
The conception of the New World Order.
World without God. The word secular.
New World, secular world.
Without God.
It means without God, yes, that's correct. Let's go to the next slide. Now, this is part of the book. I just want to look at this little thing here that I highlighted in this book. I met Jesus Christ in the pages of the Great Controversy. You see what it says? I met Jesus Christ in the pages of the Great Controversy. We should be meeting the Most High, not in the pages of somebody else's book. You see how they mislead you. The Great Controversy traces the conflict between Jesus and Satan throughout the church's history, right down to the victorious climax of the Second Coming. First published in 1858 as part of the Spiritual Gifts volume, the book began with a vision Ellen White received in Lovett's Grove, Ohio. Grove, there you go. So you can see that the books were designed and put out there for a particular reason. Let's go to the next slide. I want to pick up a little speed here. When the book was produced, it was what? Sold door to door. Did the apostles, disciples, did they go about selling books? They didn't do that. No. They brought the word to the people. They didn't say, hey, come and buy a book so you can know about the Most High. It's free. This is a Seventh-day Adventist church in Florida. What's wrong with this picture? Can you tell me?
It's no different from a Catholic church.
Let's start from the beginning right here. They show you Christ in the sun with the same flame that you see on the other pictures, right? But then look at the way the building is shaped to the top, like a pyramid. Do you see the pyramid right there? And then look in the middle. See the obelisk right here? There goes the obelisk. The point to the top and the middle.
Wow.
So you're thinking that you're giving praises to that white Jesus, white minister, white Jesus, but you're not realizing that you're giving praises to a standing image that the Most High says in Leviticus 26:1 to stay away from. Let's go on, next slide.
So those lights represent the have on the thing.
Yeah, and they position these where the sun can, when the sun rises, it hits it. So you're always worshiping the sun. all about sun worship. Let's go on to the next slide. There goes a Grand Master of Masons medallion. So you can see it's a Masonic medallion, and the Masons, the Freemasons, these are like the top-notch people who deal in society. You can see the symbol of the sun right in the middle, with the rays of the sun and a pyramid. Let you know the source of this witchcraft, this power came from Egypt, but Egypt didn't get theirs from Egypt. Egypt got theirs from Babylon, with Nimrod and the building of the Tower of Babel. That was the first erected standing tower. Okay, let's go, next one. This that you're looking at here is a lithograph conceived by James and Ellen White back in 1874, a drawing, the way of life. And if you look, you can see the Garden of Eden supposedly being kicked out, the sacrifices, the priests, the Jesus that they worship, the disciples and all that stuff, and the kingdom to come. But look what's in the background. A tree split in two.
The eye there.
And guess what's behind that tree?
Eyes.
One eye.
Watching it.
Now when did God say that he ever had one eye? Huh? Unless he's a, I don't know,
Cyclops.
a cyclops. You see what I'm saying? So you can see these images, and this is put by Ellen G. White.
Look at how the shadow falls to the left.
Oh, that's
If-
interesting.
If the sun is facing
That's right.
from the front.
That's a good, yeah, that's very good. Thanks for pointing it out. The shadow is pointing to the left, not to the right. You see, to the side. It's kind of crooked. All right, let's go to the next slide. Seventh-day Adventist pyramid-shaped logo. You see how it's designed? Like a pyramid. The flame in the middle, the words, everything is set like a pyramid. So they have a subliminal message. There goes the family ministry. How it's set up with the lights flashing around it, okay? And the same pyramid again. Next slide. There goes the ministry again. Once again, as a pyramid. And the yellow, which symbolizes what? The sun. Okay? The sun. And these are elements. The sun, the fire, and the water, whatever it is. These are all Masonic messages that they're portraying here. Alright, let's go on to the next one. There goes another one of their books. And you can see the one eye. Why not show a man with two faces? And there goes the pyramid, and the eye is coming out. And it's to the global mission to get the whole world into that agenda. Do you see that? Let's go on to the next slide. I want y'all to really see this.
Let all your acts be such that you would not be ashamed to meet them in the judgment. God's eye never slumbers or sleeps. This all-seeing eye is ever upon you.
That's one of the manuscripts from the Ellen White people's estate. Okay, when in the manuscripts you can go there and you can see this is some of her writings. Let's go to the next text.
A faithful record of all their works is daily made by the recording angels. All their acts and even the intents and purposes of the heart stand faithfully revealed. Nothing is hid from the all-seeing eye of Him with whom we have to do.
It's always giving you this reference to an all-seeing eye. That's Masonic. Let's go on to the next slide. This is Jehovah's Witness. The cover of a Jehovah's Witness book. The Divine Plan of the Ages. That sounds like Ellen G. White's material. Yeah. If you had to close your eyes, you probably think this is Ellen G. White also. Because it mentions the ages.
Hey, teacher.
But a plan is Masonic terminology referring to design and so forth, okay? And you can see this Masonic symbol right here, as shown in the Great Pyramid. This is Jehovah's Witness. Let's move on. This is the tomb of Charles T. Russell, who was the founder of the Jehovah's Witness. This is his tomb. So we saw Ellen G. White with a pyramid and the obelisk. Now you see this guy with the pyramid and the capstone. You see how it's designed? The capstone on top where the eye is supposed to illuminate. But look right here. You see that? With the cross and this crown, and you're thinking, oh, that's Jesus. He must have loved Jesus. Alright? Let's go on to the next slide. This is the Jehovah's Witness watchtower. Over on the left is a Masonic symbol for the Masonic order. That's a Masonic order symbol. So what you saw on that pyramid is a Masonic symbol. That's the actual Masonic symbol here. But look at this Watchtower magazine. Where do you find that same symbol?
It's the top left.
Right in the top corner. Do you see it?
Yeah.
With the Roman laurel, when you go to the competitions for the Olympic Games, what people don't know is that the Olympics were designed to prove yourself worthy as a god. You go to demonstrate yourself as being a god. When you become a god, they put that god power as a crown, a laurel around your head. The green leaves that you see right there. So this is all Masonic. Even that over there is Masonic too, with the cross dagger. See, there's a stuck inside this man's armor. Okay, and then what you see in this corner over here, the sun is rising. All right, because it's all paganism. Let's go to the next.
Hey, teacher.
Yes.
In the scripture, it tells you that God has eyes. They never said eye, it said eyes.
Eyes, yes. All right, so let's take a look at her funeral, what do you call it, booklet, okay, when she died. Once again, I put the Masonic symbol to the top so you can see what it looks like. And when you can see here, 1827, 1915, the famous prophetess of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, who is also affiliated with the as a non-governmental organization with the United Nations, supporting all this other foolishness. You can see the same symbol right over here on Ellen G. White's booklet. Okay? These are all messages for those who are in the know of what's going on. Let's go on. Next page. This is Jehovah's Witness plan now. Divine plan of the ages. So this is a chart. You can go to their information and you can see this. But look how they start to show you those so-called dispensations of time up to when the Messiah is to return. They show you a foundation stone laid, then it's built up like a Masonic project, and then the light is still shining. You see all these stones in the corner? These are supposed to represent God. That's what they're saying. And then it's built until finally it's completed as a new world order. Right over here. You see that? It's built, it's moved, and then finally it's capped. So they're connecting all the witchcraft of Egypt right into religion, and our people are trapped in these systems thinking that this is the right way. They don't know what they're worshiping. You see? Let's go to the next slide. This is the Mormons, the Latter-day Saints, the morons in Utah. This is on top of their museum, Church History Museum of the Morons. And if you look over at the top, you can see the same eye, but then you see a Christian symbol, and you see another Luciferian or Masonic symbol right here. It's the phoenix. America's eagle is actually the phoenix rising from the ashes. And phoenix is a very powerful Masonic symbol. Thank you, symbol. Let's go to the next slide. So there goes, now this is in a temple of their church. And you can see the eye with the light, with the rays of beams around it too. Alright? Next slide. There it is again. And you can see went to the top, Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So you know I'm not showing you some other building, but this is exactly what it is. So these churches are supposed to all be different, but how come they're all connected that way with the same symbols?
Children.
Yes, Sean.
The same Church of the Latter-day Saints is affiliated with the whole slave trade.
The whole slave trade.
And they're the ones that have all the records of all the slaves, where the families are and everything, the names and shit, all that stuff. If you need to find out history, but like get information as to the tribe or the slave or what ship you want, everything, they have the records.
Yeah, thieves, robbers and thieves, yes.
In those caves.
If you ever notice, when you look at it, the majority of the whenever you look at the eye, you go back forward, you see, You always notice it's the left eye. The way the eyebrow is,
Right.
and the way the shadow is, it's actually the left eye.
That's a good point that you brought up, because it goes back to what I said about the left angles. Okay? That he only designed things by left angles. Alright, so let's look at this now. This is supposed to be the Lord's Supper, or some kind of a supper, or whatever it is. And if you look at the picture, you can see that same thing right to the top of the head. And with light around it, right? So you see all of that foolishness that's there. Do you see that? And this is supposed to be Christian thing. Symbols. Alright, let's move on. Now, we all are familiar with many things in the system in the world. So what fellowship does light have with darkness? But you can see all these businesses have the same symbols.
All the supporters.
This is just a small example. There are thousands like that.
Teacher.
Yes.
I noticed the other day after I was watching CBS. And if you look at the logo, it's actually it's an eye.
It's an eye. There you go. CBS. CBS is just an eye.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's correct. I'll do a thorough class on that you can see all the different symbols. Let's move on. Now, if you go to this website, you can probably write it down. This is a great source of information there too. Lots of different symbols. People make tattoos on their body and they don't know what they're putting on their bodies. And usually these things are talismans or doorways for spirits to be attracted to. It's like a sign, an entrance. If I see a sign that says male bathroom, that attracts me to go there to use it. If I see a female and I don't go in the female bathroom, it's a sign to let me know I should stay away from that. So when you put these things on your body, what happens is that it tells certain types of spirits, because there are many different spirits. There's a homosexual spirit, there's a dumb spirit, there's an angry spirit. I mean, there's different spirits. Blind, dumb, lame, you name it. They're all spirits.
Confusion, everything.
Yes, madness. And so, depends on what you put on your body, it causes a certain demon to go in your body. This is in Germany. In Germany, on a cathedral, right on top of the cathedral, you can see the Latin. Now, Germany is for Germans, but they got Latin on the bottom. And as you can see, the same symbol is there too. See that?
Because all of them mixed.
They're all connected. I'm showing you connections. Let's move on. This is in Yangon, Myanmar. That's out in Asia. All right? But you can see the obelisks right there. Ellen G. White has one. Jehovah's Witnesses have one. The Christian Church have one. The Masons have one. Now, these people, the Muslims out in that area, have one too. Let's move on. Turkey, another Muslim country. They got one too. Egyptian over there. I mean, how many Turks are actually Egyptians? What's the connection? You understand that? So you got buildings called state buildings that looks like the Vatican with obelisks there and so forth. And then you got all these things in these other foreign countries. They're all one body and system.
They're all united.
They're all united. Next slide. All right, here we go now. This is in Ireland. Big one in Ireland. You see that? And the people come around and socialize around it, around that male genitals there. Let's go to the next one. This is in India, in Delhi, India. Another pyramid in India. All right, let's go to the next slide. Argentina. Argentina has their own too. You see it there? I'm just giving you some fragments. It's all over the entire world. Next slide. This is the first drawing of the Washington Monument when it was put together a proposal back in the 1800s. This is what it looked like. All right. The Roman columns ran around it like in Rome. Okay. So Rome, showing the power of Egypt, they're all connected. And you know what is interesting too? Was that when we study the scriptures, we know that we are the Israelites who are brought into captivity under this whole system. And it's also a reference or inference, however you want to look at it, to show that there will be a second deliverance from Egypt again. This is only just telling us that, giving us a little clue. Let's go to the next slide. Let's see what's inside of this monument that you call a Washington Monument. Read for me, Adam, please.
On the interior of the monument are 193 commemorative stones, donated by numerous governments and organizations from all over the world.
So governments and organizations from all over the world have put something in there. Go ahead.
A stone at the 240-foot level of the monument is inscribed in Welsh.
Welsh. You can skip the Welsh language and go down to the stone.
The stone, imported from Wales, was donated by Welsh citizens of New York.
So you got Welsh background people donated a stone. They all put their contribution in there, right? Let's go on.
2 other stones presented by the Sunday schools of the Methodist Episcopal Church.
So the church is also involved in putting up that erection. No pun intended. Next.
In New York, and from the Shabbat School's children of the Methodist Episcopal Church in Philadelphia, quote the Bible verses Proverbs 10:7, Proverbs 22:6, and Luke 7:6.
Just jump down to the bottom here.
Another inscription, this one sent by the Ottoman government, combines the works of 2 eminent calligraphers.
What you see here is that a Turk, all right, this Muslim also got involved. So in other words, you have a melting pot of sin. What fellowship does light have to do with darkness? Let's move on. This is in St. Petersburg in Russia. This is a statue of Zeus. Statue of Zeus, right? You find an eagle on the side, which is all connected, the symbol of the world in his hand, with a little demon angel on top of it.
That's the same thing the Mormons have in the church.
You see that before, huh?
The only thing I have is they have a horn. It looks the same thing like that with a horn in its mouth.
Okay. But you can see how he has the Roman toga on him, and he has a staff in his hand. This is in St. Petersburg. Okay, let's go on to the next slide. This is a statue of Washington in the Smithsonian. Look at the two. Look at that. He's dressed the same way with his hand extended, with his fingers. Everything there is connected, Masonic. Do you see that? All right, let's move on to the next slide. This is the deity that the people in the Masonic world deal magic and whatnot. This is the drawing that they put out there of what the devil is depicted as. He's depicted as a what do you call that?
Hermaphrodite.
Hermaphrodite. Here you go. Half man, half woman. If you look at where his genitals are supposed to be, it has a serpent in the place of it, like the serpent that you find on an ambulance, the medical symbol. You see? So the staff is his loins up, and there's like a snake around it. And he's both male and female, because the breasts and so forth. Look how the hands are, light and darkness, the horns, the demonic goat head. He's an angel. All the connections, all these different things. Now, if you look, you can see the hand is pointed in the same way, the same manner of George Washington. Do you see the connection between the two? Any of you all here can see the connection by just by looking at it.
Clothed the same way.
Clothed the same way. Half naked, hands up in the same position. So you know when you talk about, oh, this is the fallen father, no, this is the fallen devil.
The background in the other one is dark, and you have the moon there for darkness.
He's placed in a dark room, and
And
he's
the
pitching
moon of
lights.
that there represent darkness.
The
The
arm.
moon.
The arm signifies
the moon?
where the arm is. They have the, what is this, like a cape. It still signifies wings.
Wings, that's true, very true, that's true. This is the Georgetown University seal. You see the eagle? That's actually the same phoenix. Cross in their hand, world in their hand. The shield, Latin. Okay, let's go on.
That symbol above the bird head,
that's like the Vatican.
Let's look at it's a heart.
It's a
Leader.
That looks like that. That's the Egyptian thing also.
Remember the Vatican had the same shape with the pyramid right in the middle, pointing to the canal going up. This is in here also. This time the cross is switched, is on this side. You can see the world, but you can see the Masonic, what do you call that again, compass right here. You see on top of the head the sun symbol, and the same heart thing that you look at, like he says, the wreath.
And the bird is looking to the left side.
These are all symbols.
Everything is connected.
They're all connected. Let's move forward. This is a phrase called Laus Deo, praise be to God, Latin, that was placed in there. It says that this guy had designed this with a combination of Greek and Egyptian architecture. Okay? It was to be 600 foot tall. Then Nebuchadnezzar had a statue that was about that tall too. Okay. The corners, okay, let's go back a little higher, the Pantheon. And over the entrance was to be a tall cloud Washington driving a what? Triumphal chariot. Okay? The cornerstone of the monument was laid on July 4th, 1848. Within the cornerstone rests what? The Holy Bible presented by the what? So the Bible Society that's reading says not to do these things. They're the ones involved in the systems, you see? So this is a picture of George Washington by the Masons. He says, Washington, a master mason. And you can see the symbol in the back, the people, the Masonic stuff. And one thing about Masonic orders, they also have checkerboards type flooring, black and white flooring. There was one particular establishment called a church that had the same patterns within the church that you know, are familiar with. But you can see the apron, you see the sun by his loins. Why did he put it there covering his loins? Because the symbol of the pyramids is a symbol of what? The phallic symbol, the male organs, you see? So this is a symbol, he's letting you know what this is all about. Let's continue. This is a Mormon stone that was placed in the same monument called Washington Monument, a Masonic stone. Read that for me, Adam, please.
The state of Deseret was a provisional state of the United States proposed in 1849 by Latter-day Saints settlers in Salt Lake City. The provisional state existed for slightly over 2 years and was never recognized by the United States government. The name derives from the word for honeybee in the Book of Mormon. The Deseret stone used in the construction of the Washington Monument. The stone was donated by the territory in 1853 to represent the provisional state.
All right, so the Mormons is also involved. And these are supposed to be separate churches away from governments. This is a diagram that showed all the tall buildings back in 1884. This actually gives you a good overview of all the buildings. You can see how the architecture are pretty much the same. All these countries around the world listed on the bottom here, you can see all the different obelisks all over the place. But then look at the steeples. A steeple is nothing more than an obelisk, the same obelisk on top of churches and buildings all over the world. And the buildings are built like pyramids. And the Vatican and all these states all over the world have the same shapes because it's all connected. But the Washington Monument back then was the tallest one in the world. So they say, well, I'm the one with the biggest. And that means that I'm the one that's in charge. And everyone else is below me. This is going to show you some things of interest. I want you all to see this.
The apotheosis of Washington is the fresco painted by Italian artist Constantino Brumidi in 1865 and visible through the oculus of the dome in the rotunda of the United States Capitol building.
The United States Capitol building. This is what you will find. Let's go to the next slide. This is the painting that the guy did. It's so-called Pantheon. All these stars around, all these different pictures of people, and George Washington is sitting like he's the Most High, right in the middle, right here. There goes George Washington right there. The same Mason. And you have these people, these angels right around him.
Masturbation.
And if you look at the way it's shaped here, it's shaped like the same eye-type design. Do you see that?
And he's doing the same thing.
The same thing with his hand, but different. Because these are messages. They have meanings. They know what they're saying. All right? Let's go to the next one. That's it close up. Sword in the hand, and all these. Now, you see what this lady is holding here? This picture of this woman? You see there's a red cap on the head? That red cap represents a free person, not a slave. Of course, the white people are not slaves anyway. And this is, it's called, I think it's Fasai or Fakai. I'm trying to remember the right.
What, the weapon?
The sticks, yes. It's used by the Senate. The Senate usually has to show a sign of power.
Yeah.
And it's a bundle of sticks tied together with a weapon. It's a seal of authority by the Roman Senate. So this is a Roman practice that's put together. The Senate comes from Rome. Our government is an offshoot of the Roman Empire.
Everything.
So move. Yes, and this picture over there. Let's go.
The apotheosis of Washington depicts the George Washington sitting amongst the heavens in an exalted manner. Washington, the first U.S. President and Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Army during the American Revolutionary War, is allegorically represented, surrounded by figures from classical mythology.
Take your time. He is represented, he's portrayed symbolically as one of the figures, surrounded by figures from classical mythology. So this whole thing is set up like back in ancient Rome and Greece. You understand that? All right, let's continue. He's draped in purple.
Washington is draped in purple, a royal color, with a rainbow arch at his feet. Flanked by the goddess Victoria, draped in green, using a horn, to his left, and the goddess Liberty to his right. Liberty wears a red figurine cap, symbolizing emancipation from a Roman tradition, where sons leaving the home and or slaves being emancipated would be given a red cap. She holds the faces in her right hand and an open book in the other.
All right, continue.
Forming a circle between Liberty and Victory are 13 maidens, each with a star above her head, representing the original 13 colonies. Several of the maidens have their backs turned to Washington, said to represent the colonies that had seceded from the Union at the time of.
All right, jump down to where it says surrounding. We don't read all that. Just go down to surrounding.
Surrounding Washington, the two goddesses and the 13 maidens
So you got goddesses and 13 maidens.
Are 6 scenes lining the perimeter, each representing a national concept allegorically, from directly below Washington in the center and moving clockwise: war, science, marine, commerce, mechanics, and agriculture.
All right, let's move on to the next slide. So these are the scenes that you find here, and it gives you a little bit of information about these scenes. We don't have to read all of that, but you can see war. The first one that is represented is war.
Eagle.
The eagle, you see? These are the ones that go and enslave people around the world. See the rainbow in the corner over there too?
How's that a woman with a
Bundle of sticks. But it always put a woman, and on top of her head has another eagle with stars around her head. So all these are messages that they're trying, they're subduing all these countries through war. Now we can see that the way America and the way the system of the world is set up, war and science goes hand in hand throughout the whole earth. All the poisoning, the programs that they have, the changing of life on earth, everything that they've done is to mess around with nature or to destroy it. Because science is just destroying, and war does the same thing too. But you can see how they have a goddess of crafts and wisdom. What crafts do you think they're talking about?
Witchcraft.
Witchcraft. There you go. Okay, it's portrayed with helmet and spear pointing to an electrical generator creating power. Then you have marine, because they go through the earth using their ships and stuff. See, ironclad warships with smokestacks in the background. All of these are pagan stuff, but it says, in God we trust. Next slide. Commerce. That's why most of us are in bondage, because they control the money system of the world. Why all the other countries have to put their money against peg it to American dollar to be successful. Commerce is also tied with the whole thing.
And a woman up there again.
Yeah, well, this one looks like a gay dude. That's a gay dude. Half naked with the same homosexual wand in his hand. You see that serpent wand? Yeah, they almost, you see? I'm glad you see that. All right, let's move on to the next slide. Mechanics. You see forging things and designing things? Once again, mechanics. And what are they designing? Weapons of war, all these cannonballs and so forth. You see? Weapons of mass destruction. Let's move on again. Agriculture. All right? Because they control all the food supply throughout the world.
Oh, that's a wheat.
The wheat, yes.
Corn.
You see, so they have all these things to give you messages. Let's move on. This is the guy who painted those pictures. Now, let me just read real quick. He was born in Rome. His father was Greek. All right, let me jump down to the bottom here. He worked for 3 years where? In the Vatican. So the things that he was bringing from where he got his ideas from came from where? The Vatican. That's why when you go to the Vatican, you can see all those frescoes. Michelangelo and all those different sodomites paint those different pictures and stuff up in the walls and whatnot, and call it a church, a place of worship. Let's move on. This is a statue that's by the building in the Senate, I think it is, but it's called Freedom.
Congress.
Okay? But I want you to take a look at this picture. The guy who sculpted this was called Thomas Crawford. Guess where he lived and he worked? In Rome. So everything seems to be connected to one place, doesn't it? Rome, 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 Rome. Yes.
Plus, if you look at in the new workings of the Lone Ranger, Tonto.
That's true. The Lone Ranger, the Indian, he had his, if you have a chance, look at the picture of Tonto, the Indian, Depp, what was his name? Johnny, whatever his name is, Depp. If you look at his headpiece, that's the way it looks. And you can see how this person is with this, an eagle on top of his head. See the beak? It looks like there's two birds. This is Jerusalem, Israel, the Supreme Court. Look and see what you see on top of the Supreme Court for Israel.
It's a pyramid.
A pyramid. Look at the design. This is the compass of the Masons. You see the compass?
Yeah.
The circle, the compass, everything the way it's designed. This is like a compass also. But everything is designed for a reason. Let's go on to the next slide. This is what you find inside of that same Supreme Court in Israel. So you will ask yourself, if these people are the true Israelites, what in the world are they doing with these wicked demonic symbols of Egypt? Yes.
This is what I was saying while you present that. If they said the Jews returned already, right?
Mm-hmm.
From Russia, why all these things up there?
Exactly. Masonic symbols, as you can see, this is two actual Masonic symbols. You can see the double-headed eagle, double-headed eagle. We'll come back someday and cover some of this stuff. Let's move on to the next slide. Steeples and obelisks. So the Washington Monument, you can see how it's set up. The church steeple, part of the same system, the Egyptian one, the main one, and all of these churches are different variations of the same pagan practice. Do we see that? So it's nothing different. They're all part of the same system. This is what I want you all to see. Let's go next. Victory Baptist Church. Baptist Church, look at the symbol right to the top. Do you see that? The same Masonic cross and crown. And you see this? Ah, you noticed that, huh? Good eyesight. Let's move on to the next slide.
Dragon.
This is the dragon, serpent swallow. This is also the Masonic symbol, the dragon. And the Bible tells us about this dragon. Okay? And as I said, I'll do some teachings on this early so we can really break this stuff down with scripture. But I'm just showing you some pictures right now, as you can see, all these different demonic symbols. That's all here. Let's move on. And then, once again, more Masonic concepts. Presbyterian Church. Look what it has on their banner. You see the symbols? Okay? This is, of course, in the middle is a Masonic symbols that you find here. The United Nations. Look at the head. You can see this is the head. This is the head of the same serpent biting its tail. Right here. And they let you know that that's what it is. And the pyramid. Do you see that? Yeah, everything is connected. Let's go on to the next. We're almost finished. Then you have the Seventh-day Adventist Ministry Magazine. The front cover, August 1990. You got the Jesus with his hand sticking out, the Masonic light above his head. All of these Masonic symbols, and look how he's clothed, just like the Zeus that you saw before.
And his foot is the same way, one is stretched out.
One foot is stretched out. These are all Masonic symbols with the robe and all these different things. You all see that? So people that don't read the Bible and listen to the pastors, they're going to believe that this is okay. Let's move on. Notice how the Christ is holding his right hand up while at the same time he points down with his left hand. Okay, points down.
The 3 elements. See the circles under his feet? That's the 3 elements.
The 3 elements. Well, that's true. There you go.
Yeah, but he's not really pointing down. He's pointing down, but he's holding also a sickle.
Yes. There goes, this is a magician tarot card. Tarot, I don't know if I pronounced it correctly. Wicca, witchcraft. And you see the hand is pointing down, one hand up, with all the different symbols. The chalice, the sword, they always have a sword in their pictures and stuff, either through a crown or something. It's all messages. Alright, but you can see, there goes the same pointing down with one hand and pointing up with another hand. Look at these Caesar Borgia Christs that the church have. The sun symbol in the middle of his heart, or his heart is a sun symbol. The sun is also around his head. He looks gay, just like this guy over here is gay with his breasts and the male organs. Very gay, very soft and feminine. And look at his hands, the way it's pointed. One up, this one is pointed that way. But they're all connected. And so is with the churches. Look at the Seventh-day Adventist church. We look at the one on the top. But look at this one with the male penis in the middle. You see that solid color? Mm-hmm. The pyramids? But look in the middle. Look there in the middle. In red, pink. You see that? With the cross, it's the same design. All the way through. Same design. Look at right there. One up here, one in the middle here. Crosses. All these things are Masonic. And we don't know when we go to these buildings that something is wrong. You read the Bible, but you're like asleep. Because that's what they're designed to do. Let's move on. So brothers and sisters, as you can see clearly very well, put the light on, that the people that you call ministers and teachers and leaders, if you are going to drink downstream, go upstream to see what you're drinking from. Because you might not like what you find when you get upstream. Alright? So that's the reason why we do these classes. I hope that you all learned something today in Yeshua's name.